Hello and welcome to In the Making, a series of conversations from North Bennet Street School where we connect with a range of new voices, fields, and perspectives. Before we get into our conversation, we want to thank the many supporters that make our programs possible, including the Massachusetts Cultural Council and our partners in craft. Thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Kristen Odell. I'm an NBSS staff member and host of In the Making. I'm also our exhibitions manager, and so I'm thrilled to be able to take you on a tour of our current exhibition, our 2022 exhibition called Making Matters. After 2 years of a reformatted exhibitions program, we are back in person here at 150 North Street in the heart of Boston with a very in-person, very tactile exhibition that shows sort of the back-end details of what our trade school students here are learning and working through and processing in their individual programs. And so you'll see a variety of works in progress, some things that you can touch and feel and just see sort of the back-end process of what we're learning here. And one thing that we're missing in this virtual format, which is why I encourage you to visit us in person, is the smell of the space that adds so much to the whole experience of this exhibition. When you walk into this building, you smell sawdust and linseed oil and just those wonderful smells of making that you're missing in this format. So please visit us in person here at 150 North. So I'm going to just get started. We have 8 programs represented in this exhibition, and our first one is our Carpentry program. And this is a frame to finish, as you can clearly tell. This just represents most of the techniques, sort of many of the techniques that we teach in carpentry. On the left side, you see, the building of the inside of a wall. They're learning how to frame a wall out, how to hang a window, waterproofing materials, laying a subfloor. And then on this side, you're seeing the finish work. So you're seeing wall treatments. In this case, you see beadboard, the framing of the window. You see crown molding, sheetrock, joint compound, baseboard, and wood flooring that they've laid here. One thing that I love about this demonstration of our program is that our faculty in carpentry are both graduates of our preservation carpentry program, which they use as a base of knowledge for their teaching in carpentry, meaning they are thinking about sustainability and longevity of material and use and reuse. And so when asked to build something for this exhibition, Making Matters, they made us something that will hopefully last many years as a teaching tool and maybe be added on to. Maybe at some point they'll add some siding or some insulation, or they'll just keep working on this and it will last many years as a teaching mechanism. So this is great. And we're going to move around to this presentation of locksmithing. Locksmithing is very tough to exhibit because they work on systems that we don't see, locks inside doors or technical systems that we'll never see. And so we put on display this beautiful collection of antique locks and maybe some modern locks here that were collected by Barb Baker, our former head of the program who recently retired. She gifted this collection to our current program and current head of the department, Eddie Dacius. And 2 things that I love pointing out in this little beautiful display are this really cool water main key that came from unknown origins that just fascinates me. It has no hole to put a chain around it. So was there one person that held this? Did you call the one person that held the water main key to come and open up the water main? I love the story behind that, or the lack of a story behind that you can make up for yourself. This other really cool piece in here is this totally flattened master lock. We all know what a master lock looks like. The story behind this is the master lock rep had these smushed in a hydraulic press as a sales tactic to really show how indestructible they are. And I just love that. This is an object that we've seen our whole lives and we've never seen it this way. So that's to celebrate locksmithing. And The rest of our exhibit's going to be upstairs. That's where the bulk of it is, so let's go on upstairs. And the first thing you would walk into when you walk up into this gallery space, into Wingate Gallery, is our bookbinding presentation. Our bookbinding program is 2 years long, and at the end of those 2 years, the last required project is what we call a set book. Each student is given the same text block. They start off at the same starting line. In this case, this year, it's The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury. And they are required to do a fine binding around this text block, and this gives our binders the chance to use all of the techniques they've learned in their 2 years and impart their own aesthetic perspective. And so this is kind of our favorite time of year to see all these gorgeous bindings. And if you come up close, I can show you some of the treatments they've used. We have this really amazing stingray leather that I've just learned originally it comes natural or ivory. And this binder, Lucy Barsness, has gilded the surface and applied it as an onlay onto her hand embroidered binding, which again, you gotta come see this exhibition in person to really see the fine details in these bindings. Right here you'll see this beautiful bubble technique used, which is literally Martina, the binder, blowing into a straw into the paint on the leather, blowing bubbles. They gave us some swatches here, which is great practice. On this corner, we have this beautiful binding by Ariana Rutledge, where you'll see that she broke apart a clock or a watch, and so you see these beautiful little metal pieces of a watch that she used on top of her binding. And over here, these two other books as part of the bookbinding exhibition, beautiful use of hand tooling, gold leafing on the cover of that book, this beautiful hand dyeing of the leather. We have some tools in here that are just so cool. This tiny, tiny typeface that if you're hand tooling the letters, you would use this type holder that's shown here with much bigger letters, but that's if you're hand tooling. Many of our binders use a machine press that's more of an industrial press that presses the lettering down. And over here we have a celebration of violin making and repair. This exhibition does a great job of showing a real start to finish process of our violin making program. So as a luthier, you're going to source your tone wood, which comes in this format. It's cut in this way from the vendor or the source so that the wood is evenly seasoned. The appropriate surfaces are exposed to oxygen in the same way. And so then when the luthier goes to make their instrument, they're taking this tone wood, which is maple or spruce, depending on the front or back plate. They're taking this wood and splitting it in half and book matching it in this way to give you this, what you know as a violin. You see this, the joining of these grains here. That book matching also then gives us the thickness in the center to gouge out the concave or convex, whichever way you're looking at it, part of an instrument. This instrument on the wall here is a viola. It's a Conte Vitale model of a Guarneri viola, which is the same model as this strung up and complete and ready to play viola. We have this on display to show the beautiful antiquing that this particular student used on this instrument. I mean, you can see the texture here that was done to sort of emulate use, where a violist would put their hand. And I've been given permission to pick this up. I'll just show you the back so you can really see the other antiquing done to really simulate wear and tear. It's so beautiful. Flanking this viola, we have 2 Stradivari models of violins. And then they're beautiful tools that they use, these gorgeous finger planes that everyone loves to see. They're so tiny. From here, we're going to go over to our jewelry making and repair display. And we're going to start here. This is a very important piece of our program here, or the jewelry making and repair program. Jewelry making and repair is one of the only programs whose base material is a world traded commodity. And so Ann Cahoon, the head of the program, really speaks to that a lot for our students, so they're going to be successful when they leave the program. So this shows us what $25 will buy you in copper, silver, and gold. And I gotta say, this little piece of gold is easy to lose. And below that, we have that tactile display I was talking about earlier. This is just something that when you come to visit, you can touch these. These are abrasive papers that our jewelry making students use. And you can use this loop to really see what the level of abrasion is per paper on these beautiful little brass plates that they made us. And from there we go to these great cases that really represent 3 big chunks of learning in jewelry making and repair: soldering, repair, and stone setting. In soldering, you're going to see the torch body, the striker, the flints, the charcoal block, magnesium block, the silver solder that they use, examples of things that need to be soldered, and then items that they have soldered. In our repair case, we're going to see the various hammers and files they use. We have copper tongs that are used for dipping goods into acidic materials, nylon and brass hammer that's used depending on the softness, hardness of the metal, rawhide mallet, chasing hammer, divider, beautiful little needle files, burnishers, jeweler's saw blades, which are so tiny and thin, you can't even really tell that it has a tooth on it, but it does. This last case, we're showing stone setting process. We have this clamp that they use, this material called jet set. This isn't a jet set fixture, but the material is something that is soft under hot water and hardens in room temperature air, so that they can reuse it and continue to put these settings in there to clamp on and have the stability to push the metal around. One thing I point out here are these beading tools. If you visit in person, you can get really up close and see that they have these microscopic concavities and concaves on the top of them, which are used to connect to a prong and be able to push the metal over the stone. Our jewelry making students, they do make their own tools, but I wasn't able to put them on display because they're using them constantly. They rely on them. So there are a couple of them in here, but they do make their own tools. This wall was curated by a jewelry making and repair student, Jahari Ortega, and we're grateful for her work here. And then over here, we have this beautiful feature wall, which shows these gorgeous interior photographs taken by Joe Sittenfeld with this custom slat frame system that we had made by a cabinet and furniture making student, Casa Ramsey. And I love this color and this visual because when you walk into our building, it's gray, it's very warm, but it's gray, it's very monotone. But when you step into the programs, this is what you see. You see texture and color and brightness. And so on this wall, we've started to show you some materials that are used in the bindery right here. These are actual materials that this student used in her collection of books. They're just beautiful photographs. Right here, we have one of my favorite little vignettes, which is, these are key balance pin punchings used in piano technology. It's just this very basic paper in different thicknesses that the piano technology students use to set piano key height. And so my point, what I'm trying to get at is that this very benign material used in this very precise and meticulous and mathematical and important way. And I love that. And I'll show you how that's applied in a few minutes. And then on down the way, we have this tactile wall that we encourage you to touch and feel when you visit. These are materials sourced from every program here. Woods used in violin, leathers in bookbinding, very basic material that you might find at your big box store used in our bindery recovery foam. Building enveloping materials like rain screen and a Tyvek material, hydro gap, felt used in paper making, this beautiful display of locksmithing pins, which I love so much. It allows us to show the beauty in locksmithing. Veneer before and after it's been glued, release paper, which literally nothing will stick to. I've tried. I would advise you not to try. It's absolute madness. And these really great materials used in upholstery in our cabinet and furniture making program in order of appearance. And I love this fun fact. This is obviously the velvet on the seat cushion, but this appears last. It's the cotton used on the underside of a chair. And then over here we see this modest representation of cabinet and furniture making. This is a very small slice of what they make in cabinet and furniture, but we decided to focus on the second semester project of a splayed leg table. The reason for that is it's the first time cabinet and furniture making students step away from the square shape and get into more angles and round shapes and wood tech where they're combining various woods. But it really is a small slice of what they make up there. Some of their required pieces include a toolbox, tables, chairs, and then finally a large case piece. Making display, we have this very cool piano broken apart this represents our piano technology program. We have this piano broken apart on purpose because in piano technology they're often working on a piece of the piano in a different space than another piece, and so they, with the basic knowledge that they know how it all operates together, but they'll be, working on the pin block in one bench room and the action in a total, maybe even another shop entirely. And this is just a beautiful thing. I mean, we rarely, as non-piano technicians, we rarely get to see an action, a piano just dismantled. And so this really gives you the perspective of how the machinery that's involved here and all of the moving pieces that have to come into play and work together to produce one note. It's really amazing. This pin block is a great representation of what piano technology students are learning. They're making these from scratch. They're building this, cutting it out, drilling the holes from scratch to fit snugly on the cast iron plate that sits within the grand piano. If it does not sit snug and is not shaped to fit, then your piano will constantly be out of tune. When you visit, you can feel these really cool, these are the low piano strings. It's just a really cool tactile experience here. The higher strings they have on spools in their workshop, which is also really amazing. They pull it to length and cut it and tie it off. The cast iron plate, sorry, I just want to point this out, is so heavy that we've had, these weigh anywhere between 200 to 500 pounds. We've bolted it into basically a tree and then into the brick wall here. And in my research, I was trying to find out what the tallest cast iron plate might be, and it probably goes possibly close to the top of that piece of wood, which is wild. And over here we have this, just a pile of piano hammers, which when you visit the exhibition, we encourage you to take one. The reason being that when a repair is done on a piano, every one of these is replaced, and so there's an abundance of these kicking around. And during holiday season, we start to see these crazy, beautiful animal creatures appear that our students are making out of these, and we hope that you see one. They're just wild and cool. And right here is this tiny little action model that is a great example of what a student will sit and study and learn on and modify and repair. You can really see just all of the pieces that are having to work together at the same time to produce sound. It's just amazing. And over here in this corner, we're going to look at our preservation carpentry program. Right here is one of my favorite things in this exhibition, a process view of carving acanthus leaf rosettes, which I'll show you in a second where they go, where they're applied. This is by Jonathan Kenkel and Lily Nudell, who installed it for me. It shows you the start from just a raw piece of lumber, cut down with a bandsaw into a round shape, attached to a lathe to start carving this sort of, shaped shape, if you will. And then he starts to draw the rosette, or the acanthus leaf. He starts carving it with the hand gouges, hand tools, a little more carving. And then this you see is a pretty much final product, except for the shape isn't here, but the story of this and the importance of this is to show you the journey of learning how to do this, and the struggle and the frustration, and then ultimately probably the joy and success of finishing the carving. And I go back to this in particular in this example. This shows you firsthand the frustration. You can see where this white oak, which is a historically accurate wood for this process, has kicked back at him. And you can feel, if you've turned wood or have worked with wood, you can look at this and really feel the frustration that Jonathan experienced of trying to turn this wood and having it kick back at you and bite back at your turning gouge. So I love this, and I'm so impressed at what he did here. And I'm going to take you around here to show you where those rosettes belong. The acanthus leaf rosettes belong on these two plugs up here that you can see at the top of this structure. This is a multi-year project by our preservation carpentry program. This is the facade of the John Hancock home, which originally stood on Beacon Hill and was demolished at one point. The demolishing of that home, it was one of the sparks of the historic preservation movement in this country. And the first stage of this project was when our preservation carpentry class acquired the front door of the building, of the home. And they built with historical accuracy as much as they could, the facade around the front door. That was exhibited at the old State House down the road here. And this is the second story of the John Hancock home. Eventually at some point we will connect the two if we can find a building, a space tall enough for that. So it's just an ongoing, long and beautiful project. And the last thing in this exhibition is a piece that's on loan from Hans House Studio. This is a 1/10 scale model of the apse of the Notre Dame Cathedral. Hans House Studio founded this project of rebuilding Trust Number 6 to gift to the people of Paris in the rebuilding of Notre Dame Cathedral. Last summer, our preservation carpentry class, in concert with Hans House and a few other organizations, built a test run of that truss in DC and raised it on the model. a beautiful project, and maybe at some point they will get to build the actual truss that will be used in the rebuilding of the Notre Dame Cathedral. And that is our exhibition. And I really hope that you come to visit us in person. This exhibition, Making Matters, will be up through August 26th. We're doing guided tours if you'd like a personal experience and a personal one-on-one tour through the whole exhibition. And you can find those dates and register for those online on our website. But please visit us. We'd love to have you, and thank you for being with me today. Take care.